Hey guys, it's 0 to 100 with Natasha and Serena.
What's up? I'm so good. I'm so glad to be back.
Me too.
I love to record and talk. It's just
do you?
Like, who else is listening?
Okay. All of them. All 5 of them. Yeah. Hey, 5 friends. All right, so as you can see, we have someone here with us that you should recognize if you're up to speed in watching all of our podcasts. So we brought back our good friend Nick.
What's up, Nick?
What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
How you been?
I've been great. Miss you guys.
Oh, you're gonna make my heart do things. So you guys saw the episode where we did the cognitive conditioning, and Nick's background and expertise went way beyond what we did in that episode. So we had to bring him back. We were like, no. You have to be a part of another episode. Yeah, for our May equals Mental Health Awareness Month. So here he is. So I am not going to run the risk of missing anything. So you have like 3 degrees. You have a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree,
Exercise science, and then I started a doctorate in psychology, clinical psych, but I ended up stopping. So yeah, I started with a bachelor's in exercise or psychology, then exercise science master.
You gotta use it like a mic, Nick. I know this ain't like our other mics, but just like fancy.
We need to improvise. And we wanted to be out by the pool, the beautiful scenery, and just relaxing today. So.
And it's so windy, but we like that because the fire is hella hot.
Hey, I like the hot fire. Dylan fire. Anyway. Yeah, so my background.
Oh, Dylan. Wait
remember
a minute.
that?
Yeah.
Making a band.
Yeah, you
I know that.
That's a
before y'all time. Before y'all time.
Before my time. I don't know what show y'all talking about.
Making the band. Diddy.
It's a Diddy making the band. They had a rap group.
I do remember when I was.
And there was a guy who was like, "I got the hot fire. I got the hot fire."
We shouldn't have been watching it, but we were, right?
Yeah, something like that. But psychology is my thing. Mental health. That's how it started with psychology. And of course, we talked about the cognitive conditioning. It went into that eventually, but my roots is from the mental health field.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Okay, so plug your schools. What schools did you go to?
Gotta represent. So, undergrad, Bethune-Cookman University, Hale Wildcats. My master's, I actually started at Barry University, but when I had my daughter, I dropped out and did an online program at California University of Pennsylvania. I finished up there. And then I did my doctoral work at FAU, Florida Atlantic University, before I stopped there.
So you brought it back home, huh?
Yeah, I had to bring it back home.
You're originally from Deerfield, right? Deerfield
Beach? I'm from South Florida, Deerfield Beach area. I went to school at Deerfield Beach High School, so I'm a product of South Florida. Yeah.
So what's the mascot there?
Buck Pride all day. Yeah, one time for Greg too.
That looked like the bull sign from USF. Is that not the same thing?
It reminded me of Bring It
This
On.
is a million. This is a million. It's a million things. Let's be real. It's a million different things.
Well, UCF only has one sign. No one else. Go Knights.
Oh,
you can't mistake
then I have to trump all of you and say, "Go Gators."
I mess with the Gators.
Pac-Man.
Okay, good. He said.
But I didn't go there, so I can't speak on it much. I've been there many times though, as just a friend visiting and stuff.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I know we're kind of putting you on the spot, but I did it on purpose because I'm an angel.
I'm scared what's about to come next.
No, so I'm sure you checked out our previous episodes. If you didn't, then just lie to me, okay? But we always start off so that we can pop this. So the last time we didn't get champagne. We were doing exercise, and we can't be drinking champagne in the gym. That's just not allowed.
Hey.
So before we can pop this bottle, we have to celebrate something. So we normally share something that we have to celebrate. Either it's something about us or someone that we know, something to celebrate. So now you, as our special guest, you have to give us and everyone there that's watching and listening something worth celebrating.
So something worth celebrating, huh? I guess we can celebrate that this is pre-knowledge, so no one really knows about this, but we're getting ready to spread our Mind Body One methods, not internationally, but actually technically internationally, in a sense. Canada is international, but it's been just me lately at the last few years doing it by myself, but my team, we've been working diligently to get up to speed. So I have my friend Greg, who's in California. He's going to be starting soon. And my other associate, Tuck Taylor, in Clearwater, Florida.
From the cognitive conditioning.
Yes, my partner, my right-hand man, yeah. So he's in the west side of California. And I have another, Tuck Taylor. He's in St. Petersburg area, Clearwater, Florida, on the west coast. And I have my guy, Harold Rose, up in Toronto. So by July, August-ish, we should be doing some things in each corner corner. So that's the four corners of North America, basically. So I feel that's worth celebrating. I think.
Definitely worth it.
But it's hush hush. You got it first. You got it first.
Aww.
Now let's
I like
pop
that.
that.
News. I got so excited when you were like, "This isn't really out
We
there
just
yet."
found out about this weekend. We were up in Clearwater talking about this with him, partnering up because it's big because he has a big following. He has a lot of athletes and he works with police. So it's a perfect matchup. I feel it's teamwork make the dream work, right?
Amen.
And I like how that powder thing is gonna taste extra special.
And it sounds like you got a good team going too. So that's important.
We're all young, energetic go-getters. So
any old team. Ain't
Oh,
no
nah.
dream working from that.
and the crazy thing is
Can I
we.
get an amen?
Oh no, of course, exactly.
No amen to that.
No, oh no is into what it isn't, but oh yes, amen to what it is.
I got you.
Try to save myself real quick.
All right, so I have a heavy pour, except for when it comes to the orange juice. My pour get light in. But you
Yeah,
want-
turn up.
Oh, you like that? Okay.
It's been a long week, even though it's only Wednesday.
It's
So
not
let's take us some-
Wednesday.
Yeah,
It's Sunday.
Sunday. Oh, see, I didn't drink it a little. I guess
It's been
too
a very
soon.
long week for you.
I don't even know what day it is. I swear.
I'm giving you no orange juice. Oh, I used all the orange juice. Serena knew what it was because there's barely any orange juice.
I like
Yeah.
I like the insulated cups.
Thank you.
Keeps the coolness.
You
You're
want yours
welcome.
here or where you want it? Oh, that's
I'll keep it in my hand so it's ready to sip. You know, we're not here.
We got to bring you back.
We're like
You
swimming
fit
pools.
right in.
We're like swimming pools, man. Pour up, drink,
Oh, I was
wake up, drink.
So
Cheers.
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 Please, Serena.
Fire is pouring.
It is. The wind is really blowing.
That's delicious. First of all.
Ratio was perfect. It was exquisite.
Okay. If you didn't hear, he said the ratio was perfect. It was exquisite. I poured it. So I like to celebrate small victories.
Hey, every win counts.
Started. Okay.
Get your mind right. You already know how I do.
We want to specifically talk today about the stigmas in the Black community associated with mental health.
And there are many.
A lot.
There are. So, here, let me just share some info, okay? So, I don't have these things memorized, but, I was doing a little research because I have, of course I have my own experiences, I have my own opinions about stigmas, and they're prevalent. If you are an African American, I know that they're prevalent in Hispanic communities and other minority communities as well, but I can specifically speak to the African American community, and I know that it is prevalent. We are always taught to just kind of figure it out. Everybody going through something, get your stuff together, and keep it moving.
Be strong.
You can't sit there cry. What you crying for? Wipe your tears. Let's go. Like everybody going through something. So we started doing a little research, and we looked online. Good old Google. Ex-nickname in law school for
University
a
of
couple
Google.
days. Exactly. And just pulled up some information. So we are going to continue to provide information to you all. So this is just, some little points that we pulled. This is not everything. Of course, there is a plethora of information on
Nice
this.
vocab
so you
word.
should not be... I learned it today. You should not be ignorant to this, okay? So if anyone is out there thinking, there's no stigmas, people are just making excuses, then please do yourself some due diligence and go and look things up, or call me and email us and let us educate you so you're not out here looking crazy. So let me see. Let's see what I found. First of all, I found an interesting article where Jay-Z, because he started going to therapy. And so he spoke out, I think it was last year, maybe the end of 2016. So he spoke out about moving past the barrier of this, the stigma and the barrier that it creates, and entering therapy. So he agreed that there's a stigma in the Black community, but stated in an interview with CNN's Van Jones that as you grow, you realize the ridiculousness of the stigma attached to it. It's like, what? You just talk to someone about your problems, really simple. He went on to say that he thinks it should actually be present in schools because children have the most going on. Okay, so I can add a link to, like I said, there's additional information. So I'm gonna talk less later, but I'm just gonna run through this so it'll be quicker. So in the African American community, mental health issues are often compounded by the psychological stress of systematic racism. So African American adults are 20% more likely to report serious psychological distress than white adults. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Only one in 3 African Americans struggling with mental health issues will ever receive appropriate treatment.
Yeah, they'll report it, but they don't talk about
Seek
it.
treatment. Yeah. Got it. We are misdiagnosed at a higher rate.
Wow.
Definitely understandable. Black communities have been exploited by the U.S. government and medical community, all in the name of medical advancement. So this goes into a lot of the reasoning behind it. It frustrates me when people say things like, "Oh, you're just making excuses. You're exposed to so much, so you have the same information." But for example, seeking mental health treatment is most often viewed as a weakness in our community. Running counter to survivalist mentality born from systematic oppression and chronic racism. So we'll get into a little bit, maybe this episode, maybe not, we'll see how timing is, but how religion plays a part in it. I think that's part of your program too. There's some events going on. So before I pass the mic, I do want to list some of the common mental illnesses. So ADHD, anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, depression, dissociative disorder, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizoaffective disorder, and schizophrenia. I think that's enough. It's some more statistics here, but I think that's enough. Like, I think everyone kind of has a gist of it.
Who is struggling with any one of those disorders that you just named? I know.
Absolutely.
Tons of people,
yeah.
But we just don't talk about it.
Okay, so you started a program. Black Psych Matters is the name, right?
Yeah.
So tell us first why you started that. What about your background and what you've experienced in our communities that kind of prompted you to start that, and then you can discuss kind of what it's about and what your goal is with initiating that program.
So Black Psych Matters, I came about it because the trending hashtag Black Lives Matters was very popular, and I'm big on marketing and branding, so it started as like, okay, mental health is something I'm interested in, I have a background in it, but like you said, in our community it's often underserved and looked over as you're acting out or you need to just deal with it. So I was like, Black Psych Matters too. And like any other topic, it's not saying there's no other issues in other communities, but this is my community. I'm a black male in 2019, and this is an issue. So it's about 2016-ish, 2017, I believe, that I put it as basically a Facebook page, and it's still in the works. Like, we haven't been as actively been recently, but the goal still is to get awareness and spread knowledge. Like the statistics you just went over, something you want to get out there, just knowing. Like I said, ignorance is not a bad thing. It's only bad when you stay ignorant too. So we're out there to spread the knowledge and be like, okay, this is what we need to know. 1 in 4 Americans, not just black, are diagnosed or walking around with some type of mental health, not diagnosed, but they have something, but they don't know. Right. So it's like, to say that, oh, this is only for white people or something like that, you're 1 in 4. I can say 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Next person over is going to be suffering from something. So for us to not look at this and just sweep it on the rug, like we say, you talk about religion, things of that nature. So Black Psych Matters is like, let's bring awareness to the black community of there is an issue going on, and let's educate on the different types of disorders, how to seek help, whatever your medium is. Don't got to be necessarily a therapist. It could be a support group. It could be a doctor. It could be a loved one, but someone needs to hear what you're thinking. That's something I think is big, opening up.
So you feel like that's sufficient though, for if you're dealing with, I guess it depends on the severity of the disorder, but because I know in our community it's often the preacher or someone within the church that we go to for therapy. That's our therapy. And I read a little bit online where people say that that's almost a disadvantage, like it's not good, and it kind of prevents you from seeking out the help that you actually need, and it prevents you from getting the medication, the treatment, the diagnosis that you need, because you think that, well, I'm talking to my pastor, so I'm doing enough.
Well, I feel that there's no one right answer to that, so church should definitely be an option. Not saying don't do it, but like you said, it is a limiting factor, because if you think, oh, I put a Band-Aid on a broken ankle, it does something, but was it really going to heal? So I talked to my pastor. He told me to pray about it, trust in God, and that coping can help me at least be optimistic. But there's still a problem there, Right. You see this fire in front of us, is like, I can ignore the fires there. Don't mean it's not burning, Right. So if we don't go seek like a professional who actually is trained in interventions, because that's what it comes down to. Like you mentioned, it's not just talking to someone else about your problems. You can do that with anybody. But the psychiatrist or the therapist is going to be able to say, how can we get over this? We're going to give drills, instructions, homework, something you can do to actually overcome it. Because I can talk my problems all day. They don't make them go away. But be able to say, okay, this is what's going on. We're going to break down the steps. And this is therapeutic methods that have been shown over decades that have worked with other people. So we know these methods can be efficient. Not saying it's a guarantee, but it can be efficient.
And I think that's so important. That's why it's so important to have awareness and education, because really people aren't going to stop going to their pastors or whoever it is that they may be going to, but we should be educating the pastors or whoever it is that people are going to, so they can say, yes, I can help you here, but I think I want to encourage you to go seek more help. More pastors should be saying that, more teachers or whoever it is that people are going to, they should be able to point them in the right direction, which isn't happening really that much now.
Yeah, they're starting to try to pick that up in a sense. Like they'll have like a class, maybe a semester in your degree program, and like a class is not going to give you the full duty, but at least make it like a continuing education type thing, to take workshops to deal with different interventions, because there's so many different types of mental health issues. Like not everyone's going to have anxiety, not everyone's going to be depressed. There's things you got to know what's what and identify. It's like a doctor. He can't just give the same treatment to every, oh, you got cancer, do this, you got AIDS, do this, you got a cold, do this. It's got to be different protocols for each one.
So I want to know more about the program. What story can you tell us about your journey that led you there? I know you said about the marketing and why you named it you named it, but it wasn't just something to do. I get that it touches on your field, and that's what your background is educationally, but what made you go into psych? What made you want to enter that area? And what have you really seen in the community firsthand that has made you passionate about this?
So personally speaking, I've dealt with a lot of adversity in my life. I've suffered, like most people, to some form of depression, anxiety, and it's like I understood it with myself as a person. I didn't understand why, maybe, but I could look to myself and say, okay, there's something not right here. And like you said, my parents are like, oh, stop acting up, and I love them to death, and it's like they brush it off. And it's not that I don't think they care, it's just that we don't know. So that experience as a youth just coming up, and I can say in my community, like we can talk about like say how we have like black on black crime and things of that nature. Like you think about like the issues we have in our community on violence, you're talking about a lot of young kids going through PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, at a young age because they've seen someone close to them die in front of them, or they've lost someone very close to them, or to some kind of violent act, or not even violence, maybe just leaving their family completely. Because PTSD doesn't have to just be a violent act. Like your dad's not around, that's traumatic. Like you're not having someone in your life that very much impacts you. So when I see all these types of things, I thought like this is really something that should be addressed. So when I was in school, I actually was a PE major. And I was only in that because Bethune-Cookman didn't have exercise science. But I didn't really like PE, and I loved history, so I switched to history. I found out, even though I love history, it's very boring to learn as a major.
Don't let my dad hear you say that.
No, he's history major?
Yeah.
Well,
history, philanthropy, and he's a history buff. So.
Well, I love history to this day, though. But it's just that as a major, though, sitting in the class hearing. So I took a psych class, just one, with Dr. Ian Payton. He's still at Bethune-Cookman University to this day. I don't know what about him reached out to me. I switched my major that night and became a psych major, and I just started learning more and more and more. And that's what got me down the road of just being a psychology person. So shouts out to Dr. Ian Payton, one of my favorite professors from Bethune-Cookman University Psych Department.
Hey, Professor Payton.
Yeah, he's a cool dude from Great Britain. He had the accent and all. Everyone loved him. All the ladies loved him because you know how American women love the foreigner. But anyway, he pretty much shifted my focus in the psych path because he had a class called the psych. It's basically a general psych class, but how he taught it and how the life progresses and the social aspect of it. Hey, that's some good fruit.
Tell me more.
But he got me shifted, and I never looked back. I switched that day. I had 3 majors of history, which I liked history, but I didn't like the major, PE, education major. So I kind of did a lot of things before I got to that point my sophomore year, and I didn't look back after that. And now here we are, still in the field in a different way, but still working with mental health and different things like that.
Nice. And so we saw in another one of our episodes where we actually went through the drills, but just tell us a little bit about what the actual benefits are. How does what those drills help with any mental illness or
before I eat them all.
Just any. Well, I was eating them all before.
Hey, more the merrier.
Fruit tray here. But how does it help with someone who may be suffering from a mental disorder?
Oh yeah, so one I like to use is anxiety disorders. There's several different forms of them. You know, there's like agoraphobia. People are scared to go around big crowds. There's panic disorders, but just in general, anxiety disorders are basically when a person goes through like a very stressful situation. They literally go almost into a symptom of like almost a heart attack. Like they feel like they're about to pass out. They can't breathe. They're huffing and puffing.
So is that what a panic attack kind of feels like? It feels like to the person?
Yes, you start breathing fast, hyperventilating type breaths.
Scary.
So yeah, a lot of people think they're having a heart attack when it happens.
That, like they're dying. Actually,
yeah, it almost feels like you're gonna die.
Actually, that's what happens in the movies. Like they go to the hospital. Or, I'm having a heart attack.
Because the symptoms are almost identical.
Yeah.
You feel me? Only difference is your heart cells aren't dying and your heart's getting blood still. That's the difference. Because a heart attack, your heart's not getting enough blood and you could die. But the feeling, that's the beauty of the brain though. You still feel it though. You still feel the stress. But anyway, the drills we do, like for example, we like to simulate a fight or flight response, so you get stressed at a more minute level. It's kind of like saying like when you acclimate to a stressor, like I use an analogy of when you were ever broken a bone before, or
I haven't.
Okay, so
after you broke my pinky.
Hey, it counts. So did I back in 5th grade. Now I can do that.
So I can do that with all my fingers anyway.
And I can do this too, double jointed.
So I can do this. Can you do that?
Nah, I actually can do this though. But anyway, we're playing Can I Do This? We feel like 5th graders right now.
Everybody who's listening is like, what are they talking about?
What are they doing? What can't he do?
Hey, we're very talented people sitting here.
For those of you on the podcast that aren't watching on YouTube, anything he can do, I can do better.
Hey, that's a whole nother topic in itself. Women equal rights. I'm all for that. We could talk about it on another podcast.
Yeah.
So represent.
I don't talk about equal rights. We're talking about superior rights. Because let's be real.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Oh, cheers to that.
I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm outnumbered.
You're outnumbered.
But yeah. So bad topic. So yeah, anxiety. So the drills, like she mentioned, breaking the bone. So when you broke it, it gets tougher than it was before because it's experience. Your bones heal stronger. Yes, because before it never felt the stress of the break. So when it reheals, that's how any like sickness. That's why we get disease.
Starts to, like, fight
it gets acclimated. It's used to it.
I didn't know that happens when you break a bone. Though.
I didn't either.
I thought you're more susceptible to breaking anything.
No.
Interesting.
Because the micro tears, so this is my exercise science degree talking. The micro tears, even at they're working out. We're looking at a gym right to the next of us. Right. That's still a tear. You're tearing the muscle, but it's micro. So when you feel that soreness, that's actually your muscles getting tougher.
Oh, I have done that, yeah.
So same thing with your bone. You break a bone, when it heals tougher. So let's use that same analogy for mental health. So if I'm exposed to a stressful situation, you're doing one of my drills that, as you all saw last time, made you like, oh my God, what am I doing? You're going into that panic mode at a very small level, but enough to frustrate you, but nothing to put you off edge, But some people it does actually. Yeah. We actually had a kid a few days ago. He forgot the ABCs. Because one of the tasks he had to do a mental drill with us, and to distract him, I made him say the ABCs in order, and he had to recall like 5 or 6 numbers that I gave him during the task, and he couldn't get past G. He was like,
How was he?
I think 16.
Okay.
So it wasn't this man wasn't gifted.
Like, you know how you like make a story in your mind, like paint the picture?
He was gifted. He was in gifted classes. So that's just so show. It was the panic. Because when you go into fight or flight, the blood from your brain starts filtering out to go to your muscles. Because at that time, thinking is not relevant.
I'm sure we've all been
there. It's get out of that situation.
No, y'all saw it in the last activity.
Yeah, I know. I can believe it. I was in a spelling bee and my friend misspelled the word egg. I'll never forget it. And I was like, how could you misspell egg? But she was just she was stressed out of being, she was on stage. There was a crowd. No. Girl.
Don't be like that.
Yes, but she was just that stressed out from being publicly speaking.
What year?
I don't hate that.
It was like 5th grade.
But the point is,
they gave her the word egg. That's why she got.
I know.
She was like, well, this must be.
But you have a good point, though. You have a good point. Excuse me. Anxiety doesn't come in all forms. Anxiety gets a bad rap. You need some form of anxiety or nervousness to get you ready for a situation. If you're going to a big speech or performance and you don't feel nothing, that means you're not ready. You should feel a little bit of, oh man, we got to do this. Oh, it's tough. Yeah. But it gets the problem when you can't perform now. That's when it's an issue.
Like stage fright.
Exactly. And fun fact, they did surveys of like 100 people. They do this all the time, just fun surveys. And they'll ask people, which would you rather do? Give a speech in front of a decent sized group or die?
A lot of
people die. They would rather die.
Did somebody tell us the other day on our, I don't know, I've heard somebody say the number one fear of people is not death, it's not all these things. It's
public speaking.
Public speaking. I was like, no.
And I do this in my class. I teach at Broward College, and I see it firsthand. I've had students literally walk out my door.
See, I asked you to tell us about your background. You did not tell us that you were a professor.
I forget these things. No, I'm playing.
I kind of forgot too, but I knew that. I should have prompted it.
No, it's cool. I don't talk about.
Podcaster, I'm not no interviewer.
My students even don't know sometimes what I do with my apps. Like one student came up to me and was like, "I saw you on ESPN." I'm like, "Cool," and he was like blown away. He was like, "Oh, you don't think it's big?" I'm like, "Whatever." Like my dean actually gets on me. He's like, "You should share these things." So.
All right, so it's raining. So we're gonna, but before, no, ain't no pause. We finna finish this because Mother Nature does not rock for us. Oh Lord. We'll be back, y'all.
This is real again, as we tell you.
This is a mind-body one.
All right, y'all. We are back in another location because it started
With
to
the
rain.
roof.
That's Florida for you.
It's on fire.
Again. Remember that one episode where it started raining? And you were like, no, it's fine. It'll blow over. It did blow
in
over,
that
and
case.
this just blowed over too.
That's true. That's Florida.
Okay, anyway.
Moving right
Back on
along.
track.
Back to what we were talking about.
Yeah, go ahead. What were we talking about?
What were we talking about?
We
Anxiety.
need to do one of your
disorders.
Exercises because
Again,
clearly
we need
we
another
don't
one for
remember.
Hey, this is high memory load, high stress
so
load.
said that, how often we talking to our mic? Because we want to pause too much and set up our stationary mics, so we're using our portable mics. So, anyways, how often I guess it depends on what they're treating for, but just in general, like how often do people treat with you? Like how often does one client come and see you? Like is it like 3 times a week, 1 time a week?
So I go off of the science. I'm big on science. So from the brain standpoint, anything over like 2 hours a week is sufficient, or anything 2 hours is sufficient. Anything over that is just kind of just doing it now. So I always say at least 1 hour session twice a week. Okay. Now, if you do 3 times, you can do 45 minutes. But at the end of the day, after a certain amount of time, it's like, are we doing it to get better, or are we just doing it to do it? So I usually do 2 times a week, 1 hour, because that's what actually helps the brain respond and grow. Just like a muscle, you're not going to do one push-up and be like, I'm in shape.
Right.
Same thing with your brain. You got to do repetitions. You got to do a certain amount of times, certain amount of duration. So typically 2 hours a week. It's however you spread it out.
So I used to do this thing on my phone. I need to start doing it again, but and I told you the last time that I was going to think of the name, but I still didn't. But it was like a daily, like cognitive type deal, and you have to do it every single day. So if you miss a day, then like it's mad at you because you have to build upon. So it's like how well you do, then it increases. So is that the same type of deal with your clients? Like obviously you build upon their progress. You don't do the same thing every time.
Yeah. So I think that app is more so like to get you in a habit too, though. So it's like it depends on what you're trying to train. If you're trying to get habitual things, okay, every day can work. Excuse me, but far as just doing things, far as outcome, I would do with my clients. So we start off with just simple stuff like they'll do a drill like you saw in the last video, where they have to scan the grid with the colors and they have to step to the side of the box that matches the color on the grid. So that's memory, because you have to memorize the box you're standing in,
so hard.
Red, yellow, green, blue, and then see where you're tracking with your eyes. So that makes you have to memorize one, scan, and know where you're at. And sometimes get frustrated. As you saw, you look down a few times, so that takes your concentration off. So that's a skill you got to get before you can move on to our more advanced drills when I make you do something similar. But now you got to remember like 5 or 6 numbers that I'll call out randomly in a 30-second duration. And then I'll make you repeat those numbers. So it's like it's levels to it. So you start off with just something that's more general, gets your mind going, but then we'll add more tasks to make it more split decision making or more multitasking type stuff, because that's going to make it harder to actually carry out the drill. So it's just like I always liken to like with lifting weights. You don't start off squatting 500 pounds. You start with the bar. You start with a bar and one little plate on, and then as you get on, you build it up. Similar concept with the app, but we do it more so in a specified manner. So it's not necessarily how many can you get per week, but just progressing at your pace every other week.
And before we actually did this, I had never really heard of this type of physical plus cognitive exercising before. And so do you see a lot more people? I mean, we started off talking earlier in the episode about stigmas with the African American community and mental illness. So do you see a lot more people coming to you wanting to work out with you, and as opposed to going to a therapist or sitting down with someone?
And I want to piggyback on that because my next question kind of goes into that, and I think you can answer it all at once. What I want to do with part of my goal for the first episode that you were a guest on 0 to 100 with Natasha and Serena, I want to introduce everyone to your cognitive conditioning.
Yeah.
But specifically with this episode, we're talking about stigmas in the African American community. You're an African American male. You're right here in South Florida. This is your stomping ground. What can you tell African Americans that are running from this stigma, that do want to seek, assistance to feel better? Like, encourage them. Tell them whatever they need to hear so they can come and see you.
Take a chance and step out your comfort zone is the first thing, because when you do our drills, you see them, it kind of look goofy. I'm gonna be the first one to say it. I made the program and I'll say it, but when you do them, you're in a standpoint like it's just you and the drill. Like if you're doing a regular workout, it's you and the squat or you and the push-up. It's the same thing, but the difference is it's your brain having to work in a way that you have to overcome deficiencies. If you know someone, I hear a lot of people, I suck at memory when we're about to do a memory type drill. Well, how do you get better? You got to try, Or if I have a problem with mental health, if I'm depressed and I'm not telling nobody about it, you kind of can't get mad about no one understanding, because being open, I guess it's scary, because you don't know how much someone might reciprocate those feelings. You might come out to your mom and say, hey, I've been feeling suicidal.
And she's gonna say, girl, go sit down somewhere.
Exactly. And deep down, you'll laugh. But you'll laugh, right? But that's the thing, we'll laugh it with with our friends or our family, but deep down, that's like co-signing my death certificate. Yeah. Because so many people have killed themselves from suicide or committed suicide, and I guarantee, I can't give you exact numbers, but if someone had just said, I understand, or even just say, what do you need? That may have stopped them. Because usually they don't kill themselves because they're just done with the world. They're done with people not carrying them. Because the world's hard. We all got problems. There's someone starving somewhere in a third world country. There's a millionaire who's depressed, miserable. We all have problems.
Right.
But at the end of the day, does anyone care about what I'm going through? And if you just dismiss it as, get over it, or ha ha ha, that's going to make you feel less as a person. So.
Well, I shared that in an old episode about that I kind of said that to my dad at one point, and I was like, but what's my problem? There are starving people in the world. And he was like, wait, hold on now. Like, that doesn't downplay what you have going on. Mm-hmm. Like, there's always going to be someone worse off than you.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that what you're going through doesn't carry some weight.
Exactly.
And at the time, I was just like, whatever, because I was brought up to just, girl, get it together. We got to go. I don't got time for this. And I think now I'm kind of in a place of, well, if someone is always there to, is it okay? How are you? Let me make it better.
Yeah.
Then would I have been coddled, and would I not have pushed through those moments? So I'm kind of like
it's a give and take.
I'm in the middle of it, and I think that there's benefits to both, but it really depends on the person.
Of course.
So you really have to understand how this is going to affect that person. So I could handle it. At the time, I might have been devastated, she ain't even giving. I mean, I just saw she told me get my stuff and let's go. Yeah. I'm gonna get my stuff and let's go though.
That's a perfect answer though. It depends. It always depends on the person. Like, you can have a family, let's say there's 2 siblings. One, he may need to hear, hey man, you're gonna get through it. You need to make a way and just figure it out. And the other one may not need to hear that at all.
That's a great example.
Some people are very strong-minded. So you got to cater to their needs, because everyone feels and thinks and shows emotion differently. Right. Like, I've known people who you have to reinforce their being. Like, they got to be told. Now, I'm not saying boost their egos, but you got to be emotionally intelligent. You ever heard of EQ? Because there's IQ, how smart you are on paper, but EQ is knowing to say the right things. Like, if you just had a major issue in your life, say you lost your job, the worst thing a friend or a family member,
never happened to me.
Well, losing your job, same here. But but yeah, so a friend or family member come at you just lost your job, and say, hey, I just saw, you change the subject. That's not smart. You either want to address that lost job or give them some optimism. The worst thing you can do is just either abandon what's going on and change the subject, because people think that's a good response. But usually most people, when they're going through something, they kind of want to address it. If you just say, yeah, the want to catch the game later, I get the intent is good, get your mind off it. That makes sense. If he's thinking about sadness, he's going to be sad. But sometimes you got to feel bad so you can get it out. So there's so many different ways you can address it. So it's never one size fits all.
And then it also goes to the person. So if I'm going through something and I want someone to give me a shoulder, I'm not going to go to the person that's going to tell me, girl, get it together. I'm going to go to the person who's inviting, who's caring, who's concerned, who's going to give me that. So it's you got to carry some responsibility too, because Like, you have to really search within you, understand yourself, and then figure out what you need and when, so that you know how to get it. Now, that takes some time and that takes some effort. And I think that your program kind of assists with that, and your background and your knowledge. You might recognize things that we wouldn't. But I think, like, I mean, dang, like, if you come to me and you expect for me to be a certain way. I actually had a cousin that did that. She was like, but she was this and she was that. My other cousin that she was talking to was like, but you already know that, like, that's Natasha. Natasha is not gonna go for that BS. Like, she's gonna tell it to you. She's not gonna tell you what you want to hear. She's gonna tell it to you real. And I've gotten better because I've worked on my emotional, EQ. Because they often have said, like, if you're like, your IQ is high, your EQ is usually low, just like in normally. So I recognized that mine was very low. So I started focusing on, like, okay, well, I want to be smarter emotionally, because they say that emotionally dumb people don't have good relationships. And my relationships were struggling.
You don't, because you don't do the right things.
No, I want to be EQ and IQ.
You got to. It's a mix.
I've noticed a difference. Like, I can kind of pick up on what the person needs, and I'll separate what my normal is and kind of focus on what they need.
Exactly.
But
I actually had
have you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going off the EQ thing. I had a friend, and I was going through my own personal relationship type stuff. And me, I'm a simple guy. I don't ask for much. I like to find someone compatible and put in work and make it happen. And
you
it's
mean
like
relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm the type of guy. I'm not really on that. Oh, let's just mess around. I was really on that, like, and this was when I was younger too.
Ladies.
Like 22.
Wait, are you single?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Ladies.
Hey, there we go. But yeah, so I was like 23, and I was going through it with a girl I was involved with, and it didn't work out. And my friend gave me advice more so like, oh, forget them. There's many girls out there you can get. And he was on that, like, just try to mess with everything that's walking. And I wasn't on that. So EQ, I wasn't trying to hear that. Like, I was in a very hurt place, and I'm confiding one of my best friends. And I know that they didn't mean it as disrespect.
He was just trying to make you feel better.
Yeah, and it's like, that goes, you got to be smart about it, because you got to understand. And I think as men, we are bad at that.
Oh, yeah.
Emotional intelligence.
Okay.
I can co-sign.
Like, I'm a man. I'm not going to act like it ain't true. Ladies, you deal with a lot of nonsense we deal with. But it goes both ways.
We do more nonsense, but go ahead.
See, I had to make it a competition.
That's a whole nother conversation.
There she go again. That's twice now. She done made a competition. If I can own up.
Coming soon.
If I can own up to the species of the male race, it can go both ways. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm shut up because I'm outnumbered.
It goes both ways, I would say.
I'm gonna leave it at that, though.
Men aren't more.
It's
I would
more.
say,
Oh man, look what I started. Look what I started.
Hey, good.
But yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta be able to read the situation.
So I love, and this is why we wanted to actually, and I think we already said that, like, it was an accident that we started doing this series. I don't know if you watched the previous episode, but it was kind of an accident that we did this whole mental health, like, series. But we started looking into it. We were like, we should just make this like a whole month-long thing. We were like, it'd be cool if May was Mental Health Awareness Month. And then look online, and I'm like, wait, no.
It is.
Like, Serena, guess what?
Yes.
So we knew.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. But I personally feel, because I was diagnosed with ADHD, like, as a child, right? And my mom was like, child, I wish a teacher would call me again about your foolishness in class. Like, figure it out. Medicine wasn't an option. It was just
classic.
Get it together. And I can still remember times, even into high school, where I just couldn't sit still, and then I would get in trouble in the car. And, it was just, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, so you get in trouble. And I personally am happy about that. But that's our separate episode. We talk about our personal journeys. Okay. But I say all that to say that I guess I can see it more, or maybe not. Y'all can chime in. But I can see the growth and the acceptance and kind of moving towards I don't know if it's an elimination, but moving towards the lessening of the stigma on mental health, at least some of the mental health diseases and disorders, because when I was a child, it was like, tuh. And then when I was re-diagnosed in law school, it was kind of like, I had my own stigma. It had been embedded in me and ingrained in me, and I was just like, oh no, I'm not doing that, because that's a crutch, and then you start researching, and you start learning more about it. And so since that, I've kind of learned other people that have been in a similar position, African Americans, minorities, have been in a similar position, and now just like looking out, and we're a more accepting generation than I
Yeah,
think earlier
definitely.
generations, right? Is that, I don't think that's up for
No,
argument.
it's definitely,
But
definitely,
I think
by far.
that it's changing. So I guess my question, I think this is what Serena was kind of saying, like, are you seeing more clients coming to you, like, from the African American community? Like, are they seeking out your type of benefit, or do you think that they're still kind of green to it? They just don't know about what's
definitely
out there.
still some, I guess they balk at it a little bit because, first of all, what I'm doing is in any community, it's like, what is it? I'm still making strides and growing, but I feel still there's some strides to make because going back to what you said with your experience, like mental disorders such as something like ADHD, it is a physical thing that's going on with your brain. Like, yes, there's a mental component of how you act and behave, but that's a byproduct of what's happening in your brain. Because any disorder, you can link depression, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar. It comes down to some kind of chemical imbalance or misfiring. So ADHD, for example, you can probably attest to this. Tell me if I'm wrong. People who have ADHD, they're not getting enough stimulation. That's why they're not able to be in line. They need something to keep their mind active. It's like they got to fulfill that with something. Like kids with ADHD usually like to get into things like video games or sports because it can keep them more active. That's why drills like we do is good for the ADHD population because you're always engaged in something. There's no lapse of movement. If you get some time like you're not doing anything, it could feel like 10 years. It's like, what's going on? I need something else to do. And that makes them like come out as misbehaving when it's really just they're not getting enough stimuli. I had a guy in my class at ADHD back in 5th grade. He was in gifted classes, but he would fail all the time because it just wasn't enough for him. And he got moved up to a more advanced grade ahead, and he started doing better because now he was getting stimulated. And the vice versa, autism. So they're getting overstimulated. So they're taking in too much stimuli, and their brains are getting overwhelmed. So you kind of got to slow it down. That's why a lot of them, some of not all is a spectrum, but some is like they're not as social. Not because they don't want to talk, because they just have to be approached in a different manner. So I think for our community to get over this stigma is understand it's not just you're acting out, but there's actually something going on in my brain that is firing different than the quote unquote normal. Because I don't like to use the term normal. These kids or these people are still normal. It's just that they have a different. Yeah, exactly. I like that. It's a new normal. It's just a different way to look at it. Like if I have ADHD, I could put that creativity or that extra energy into creativity and become a great artist. Most great artists and painters and stuff have suffered from bipolar or ADHD. And you could say, oh, they're not normal, but you wouldn't have these great artworks or these great music songs and stuff like that. So it's just a matter of labeling them the right way. Don't pawn them off as a misbehaving or bad or different. Just know that we're all different. It's just they're different, needs a little more assistance than others.
And that's what's frustrating is people are like, I don't want to be labeled and I want this label on me. But I think that you need to accept what's there and be proud of it. I'm labeled as black, I'm labeled as a female, I'm labeled as a lawyer, I'm labeled as all of that, and I'm proud of all of that. I'm labeled as
you're not in a box.
I just put that out there.
Ain't no box.
No, but and it's not even about the box. It's just like people don't like these titles. Even like relationships, they be like, oh, I don't like the whole boyfriend girlfriend thing. I mean, dang, if that's your man, if that's your girl, like embrace all of it.
In our community, I think we have this thing of like we overcome things. Like nothing stops us. We're strong. You know, we can struggle and still get through it. And so I think that's okay to say, but we, like you said, you have to accept first that there's an issue, and then we can overcome it, and then we can get through it. But we have to say there's a problem first, which in messaging and communication. I don't think it's a
problem. I think that when you're running from it, it's a problem.
Right.
And if it's a problem because people are running from it, right? So if you just accept that, okay, well, I don't like labels, I don't like all this, I don't like that, but if I just go to this doctor, they diagnose me. You don't have no problem with somebody saying you got the flu or whatever.
Nope.
Like, oh man, I'm walking around
That's
here
right.
with the flu. Be like, I'm walking around here with the. I'm not saying that. No, you don't care. But if it's like, oh, you have bipolar disorder
and
or
anxiety,
it's
the same thing.
Like, oh, you're not gonna
it's
tell
a physical
me.
disorder
I've been there.
Health is it's the same thing, but you're right. We label it.
And your mental health is just as important as your physical health. And I think that if we just accept that, then everything else will trickle from it, and then it won't be such like, oh, this is something to be fixed. It's just like, this is just me, and this is how I deal with it, and this is what comes from it. And
I guess
some people are funnier than others.
But it goes back to like messaging and communication. I always look at things from a communications media point of view, and so it goes back to the way that we like talk about. Because still, like I always like to look at things personally, and so I think if tomorrow somebody said you had this disorder, if it was a mental illness, I would feel some sort of like, I don't want to tell people because people are going to look at me. You know, we just talked about in our last episode, or one of our past episodes, about, you know, school shootings, and what do people always tie like these mass shootings to? Mental illness. And then so it's like, are you going to do this? Are you going to flip out on everybody? Are you going to attack somebody? So it's like, we have to get past that type of messaging and like really just put it all out on the table and be really open about it. Have more people who are struggling with these illnesses or disorders talk about, you know, no, I live a normal life and I do struggle with these things, and but this is
or
how
I don't because I'm taking medication, or I'm doing cognitive conditioning.
But that's the thing, they gotta know
issues anymore.
They gotta know what it is. Like, for example, we're talking earlier before we shot, and it's like a lot of people don't even know what the disorder is. Like, if I tell you, like, people watching, I don't know how many knew that ADHD had to do with your brain not being enough stimulation. That's why they act out. Or OCD, for example. Most people I hear say, "Oh, I'm so OCD," as a joke because they're clean. But that's not OCD. Like, we were talking about, OCD is when you like you're obsessed with one or several rituals. Like, for example, I use the analogy of going to your car. Like, a normal person, when they leave their car, right, they'll be like, doop, doop, and walk away, and they'll be like, let me double check, click it, okay, and walk away, and they're good. Someone OCD, know what they're gonna do? They're gonna walk up, doop, doop, walk away, stop, think about it, no, open it, close it, doop, doop, lock it in, stop, and they're gonna do that like 8 to 10 times.
Or whatever their pattern is.
Yeah, there's different types,
person.
And it's usually, it varies. It could be checking the oven.
Because there was a show, I was probably like 1 year old when this show came out, but there was a show on MTV, and it was
True Life?
I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I have
True
OCD.
Life. Yeah.
And the girl, whatever her thing was, whatever her pattern was, she felt like if she didn't do it, then her mom was going to die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's obsession.
Yeah.
And then the compulsion is you gotta do it.
Like, how can you function thinking like, oh my God, I have to do this, or else like this is gonna happen to someone that I care about. So of course, like if I felt like that and believed that, and that was part of my psyche.
Exactly. You had to do it. It's like, but I gotta realize one day, I know personally, through my professor, she had a client who he would drive around, like coming from work or whatever, and he would have like a broom in his car, in the dustpan, and he would and he would stop in the middle of the street. If he saw trash or dangerous broken glass, he would sweep it up, because his obsession was, if I didn't do this, a kid might get into it and eat the glass or die. So the thing was, it's kind of a funny story, but not, because he would come home super late from doing it because he had to do it. His mindset said, his brain is wired, because remember, our brain is physical. You can say, like, we have free will, yes, but there's certain things that are influenced by, if our brain's wired a certain way, it's like a computer program. A computer program is only going to do what it's wired to do. But anyway, he would come home super late. His wife started suspecting, like, is he having an affair or something? And she actually followed him and investigated and found out what he was doing. And it's like, wow, this is weird or different, but it's like, this was a guy suffering, because in his eyes, the world would not be safe for kids if he didn't stop his. And let's be real, he wasn't saving the world in a bigger sense, but yes, he was helping, but it was taken away from his life. Like 2 hours sweeping up roads, and this is severe.
That's why we have to kind of, we talked about stop using these terms
as
so
like buzzwords.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
like,
so bipolar.
I like to have
Bipolar
my
don't mean
clean.
I'm happy, sad, 2 minutes. Bipolar means, this is the clinical definition of depression. Bipolar, they have different definitions, but bipolar means you have a manic mood, meaning elated, elevated, you're hyper, you're up, you're in a good state, not necessarily good, I should say, but active, and you're alert, and you're on it, and then you go back to baseline. That's bipolar. Now, you may have a depressive mood later, but as long as you have that one elevated mood, you're technically deemed bipolar after that. So it doesn't necessarily mean you got to keep going back and forth, and that's what people think. Or they think it's split personality or dissociative personality disorder, when you literally have multiple personalities, which is, I think, 0.08% likely. It's very, very rare. Most people who've been diagnosed were faking it. There was a case back in like the 60s that this lady, her name, I forget her name, was like Jeannie or something like that, and she had like 12 personalities, but she was faking all of them.
I want them to hear all of this.
She was faking all of them. So, like you said, these buzzwords, oh, I'm so bipolar, I'm so OCD. Like, no, you're just a person going through. You're anal, actually, if you got to be that clean. Like, come on now. But it's
we have to get to a point that where we,
it's like you're being extra.
Throw those words, like we have to stop using them. Like there are
like
certain
slang.
words that we used to use
like
in the 80s that we know that's a no, and today. But we have to get to a point where we're doing.
I almost
the same
fell
thing.
victim to that, and I almost said like, and then put it in there.
I almost did too.
But they have become like slang words, and I think that, but in order for them to be recycled, like thrown away or whatever, then we need to associate the proper term with its proper meaning.
Right.
So we need to come out, like we need to expose, like this is what bipolar is, and someone that you love very much is probably dealing with this. So instead of you talking down upon it and using it as a slang word, or making it just be the pun of a joke, like let's have a real conversation, because then your loved one can probably live a happier life because they don't have to worry about it. It's like a catch-22. It's like either I save myself and help myself and go do this, but then I might be exiled by my family because they're going to clown me. They're going to tell me, like, oh, you this, oh, you crazy, oh, you this, you that, whatever.
Make a joke of it.
And it's like, no, those two things should not be one and the same.
Right.
Because
you wouldn't laugh at someone with cancer.
Therapist. I mean, Michael Phelps is on TV now telling you that he had to talk to a
is.
black line at the bottom of a swimming pool, and you could talk to a therapist from your phone app. If you are out there and need to talk to somebody, you need to do it. Like, there's so many different like methods and mechanisms that you can employ, and that's what makes me excited about all of this, because while we're still talking about a stigma that is very much prevalent, and it's alive in Black community, and like I said, through some stuff I read online, like the Hispanic community as well, son, it's there, but it's getting better. So I hope that when I have kids, that whatever my children are dealing with, I don't have to worry about, on top of them dealing with this, now they gotta also deal with societal influence and ramifications coming from other people saying that, oh, well, you that, you this, like, no. Just like I want to wear a pink dress, I also want to do this to help myself. Like, what? Like, just let people be free.
Right.
Just let them be, And I hope that we can move towards that. So, like, do you have clients that are just like, I'm healthy, everything's all right with me, I don't have any disorders,
and they just want to see you?
Yeah, maybe for memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's more so my population is like general people or athletes or elderly. Pretty much the mental health disorder. Like, yes, that there is some I've had who do have some kind of mental health issues. They've dealt with bipolar or depression, whatever it may be. But generally, it's more so for performance-based things, dealing with the general stuff like memory, performance, reaction, decision making, motor balance issues. Like, I work with a lady with brain trauma, and she's learning pretty much to move and walk again. Like, she can walk barely, but we're getting her movement back because movement starts from the brain. So that's another aspect of what we're doing too.
I feel like I want to, as like a new mom, my memory is like now shot. So I feel like, I'm like, I need to get on a plan or something.
I know, and ginkgo biloba don't be working, so it don't.
No.
Wasting my money. My memory got not even a little bit better.
Hey.
Maybe I forgot to take it sometimes, but that means it wasn't working.
Hey, well, everyone's brains, I keep saying it, everyone's brain's wired different. One brain gonna work different than another. There was a case back in the 1800s. A guy got hit by a metal rod. He was packing dynamite, building the railroad back in like 1850s. The rod sparked the fire of the dynamite. It exploded. The metal rod was 9 feet long. Went through the bottom of his chin, out the top of his head. He lived. He was actually fine.
They couldn't just snatch
his
that out.
eye. No, it went through his head. It went completely through.
Oh,
it went from the bottom.
I'm picturing like a guy with like a rod.
No, it went straight through out the top. His eye, he lost his eye, but that was it. Physically, nothing else was changed. But mentally, though, his personality shifted, and that just shows you how regions of the brain influence.
Hole in his brain.
Well, yeah, but the thing was, there's people who've had similar injuries don't have the same effect.
Right.
Like, there's people who've had similar injuries that didn't get crazy or aggressive like he did. He was a docile, calm person, but he became very aggressive. They say he would start swearing. He was very rude to women, became misogynistic. He wasn't like that before the brain injury, but there's people who had similar injuries, brain trauma, brain trauma, but they did not go through that. They either had, like, for example, a stroke. There's people who have strokes, lose full function of their left side. There's people who have strokes, they come bounce right back. Because the brain, they say, we know more about Mars than we do the brain. And we know a lot about the brain. It's just that it's so complex. One region controls something, but it's so many ways you can do it. Right. Like, when the neurons or the brain cells fire, it's basically a map to how to do it. If I tell you to pick up that cup, right? Pick it up.
Say pick it up.
Oh, okay. Could you please pick up the cup?
Say please.
Sorry, that's very ungentlemanly of me.
Very.
Could you please pick up that cup?
Oh, most certainly.
So, see how she just did that?
And she did it too.
A code of brain cells had to go in a certain order to make that happen. But how it does it for her, it might be a different order, but the same action came. So this just shows how complex our brain is. And every time you repeat the action, can you please pick it up again, please?
Of course.
Those same neurons that made her do it just fired again. Now pick it up with your left hand, please.
Shucks, man, you got some a lot.
All right, that's the last one.
Empty.
But the point I'm making is every action, every thought, every emotion, every feeling, everything.
No?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Is controlled by a brain impulse. So mental health is deeper than just the feeling. Yes, please.
You sure?
It's deeper than just the emotion. It's deeper than just the brain firing. It's everything. So once we understand, I think, that everything's a whole inclusive aspect, we can move forward and accept mental disorders. Like we said earlier, you wouldn't laugh at a person with cancer, would you?
No.
I would hope not someone would do that. But when someone says, oh, I'm schizophrenic, if I ask the crowd, what is schizophrenia? Don't look it up. What is schizophrenia? Can you tell me? Do you guys know exactly what schizophrenia is?
Please provide an explanation as to what you think schizophrenia is.
Yeah.
Below in the comments.
That's not a joke.
But schizophrenia is basically, people think it's like split personalities, but schizophrenia is basically hallucinations. Like, it doesn't have to be vision. A lot of people think they're vision. It's very rare to have visual.
It's usually voices.
It's usually
isn't it?
voices,
I know
yes.
that from Law and Order.
Nice job. I love Law and Order. That's my thing. But anyway, so yeah, hallucinations of voice is the typical schizophrenia. It's very rarely visions, but it can be vision though. But we associate it with the crazy vision, seeing like fake things around us. And that's why these stigmas come, because, oh, you seeing voice, or you seeing fake objects. Like, no, it doesn't happen all the time. But when it does happen, you don't know what's real. Because imagine if you heard someone just talking, you're not gonna think it's crazy. You think someone's really talking to you.
You're gonna think that.
So that's your reality. But people gotta understand that these people aren't doing anything different than us. It's just their reality is distorted. It's augmented. It's not seeing the same thing. It's like I'm watching a TV screen and I see Beyonce and you're seeing Keisha Cole. We watch the same screen though. You're gonna think crazy like Keisha Cole, she on the screen. But that's what they're seeing though. And you can't tell them it's fake because that's what they're feeling.
Really
that's their reality.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would have said Beyonce and me, then I would have been like, well, anybody can mix that up. But
Definitely. I can see the striking resemblance.
I feel like we could just, like, with almost every conversation, but this one in particular, it's so fascinating, and there's so much that we don't know. There's so much that we need to talk about because we don't talk about it, that we can just keep going on for days. For days, really.
But one thing that people have been saying about our podcast is that we kind of like have a light conversation about kind of heavy topics, and this is kind of how we talk. So we didn't really think that they were heavy.
5,000 pounds.
But we didn't come in with a script. We didn't feed anyone here questions. You know, we didn't talk about this beforehand. It was just more so like, let's just spark a conversation about this and let's see what comes up. And we're not so much here to educate on specifics as we are to just open this as a topic of discussion. Like, have this kind of discussion with your friends. Like, and I'm not talking, you know, this doesn't have to be a college type or, you know, post grad program type conversation. Like, this is a conversation that I want to have with my grandparents, with my younger siblings, with everyone, you know, all my friends from various walks of life. Like, this is an important conversation, because one thing I learned from my background in tobacco is when you have a conversation with someone about something that's, you know, a preconceived notion, something that's wrong, that person, once you talk to them, kind of educate them on stuff, is going to go talk to at least 10 people. So by you having just 1 or 2 conversations with a few people, you're spreading to the masses. So, I mean, look this stuff up and have conversations about this. Yeah,
Definitely. Got to talk
and
about
having the one conversation could make someone feel comfortable enough to go get the help that they need, or to be okay with, you know, finally getting that diagnosis
and being open about it. I mean, a lot of times people don't say something because they're like, I want, but nah, because they're afraid.
Let's do this. I got a homework assignment. Just whoever's watching,
I love homework.
Go to someone. That's rare. Most of my students say they hate homework.
Oh, you didn't see my face?
We're not in school right now. We're not getting graded on it, so we're like, homework.
This is homework that can save a life.
The world is my school. The world is my classroom. I'm always in school.
Exactly. But this homework can save a life. Go to someone you care about, whether it's a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, mother, son, whoever. Just go up to them. Don't have to be, if they're in a good mood or bad mood, just say, hey, how are you doing today? You'd be surprised what that could do for them. I've had people who tell me, and I just ask them randomly, and I'm like, wow, no one's asked me that all week. You'd be surprised, because you assume. You just assume they're okay because you love them, you care about them, and you feel they're probably doing well, but you never know. That how you doing today could be like lifesaver for some people. I'm not saying everyone's on the edge, but you never know. Just ask them how they're doing. I think that's easy homework, right?
And when they say, I'm fine, then hit it back with that follow-up question and say, no, but like, really,
read
like, how are you?
Read them.
And they say, well, why you ask me that? I'm acting like this or I'm acting like that. Say no, like I just genuinely care. You know, like really take this homework assignment serious, because
we get caught up in
homework assignment.
we get caught up in everyday life, and it's easy to just see your wife or your mother and just assume they're good because you love them and like.
So y'all ain't checking on your wives?
Well, you know what I mean. Like,
you said wife. I feel like the wives are
because
also neglected.
let's think about the small talk of like saying, "Hey, honey, how you doing today?" That's not what I'm talking about. I'm like in an intimate moment. It's just y'all sitting watching TV,
how are
chilling.
you?
How are you really?
Like, no, it doesn't even have to be like that. It's just,
we need to
just catch them. It's more so catching them off guard, because if you say it in the morning or when you just saw each other for the day, it's gonna be a typical response like, "Yeah, it's good. I had the kids, blah blah blah." Yeah. But say y'all watching TV, just chilling, and she's all into the show, and just out of nowhere, you're just like, "How are you doing?" And she's gonna probably be like, "I'm good." And if she's good, just follow up one more time. It's like, "I just wanted to check and hope you're all right today." And if she's not all right or he's not all right, she might or he might open up more. But the goal is just to ask, because that one little thought, even if they don't ask right then and there, they might go next morning. You know what? I thought about it. I'm telling you, this is how I've been feeling lately. It might be something that can save not necessarily a life, but just their mood state right then and there.
That's it. Y'all to cater that to y'all old lady though, because
that's the third one. That's the third one.
Cater that to her.
The war on men needs to stop.
A lot of our listeners.
Let my people go.
I'm not even bashing. So y'all over talking me. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that it might not go just that easy, but just don't give up that fast. So if she hits you back like, "Dang, should I be mad about something? Should I be upset about something?" Then you got to understand that we are literally carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. Okay, so if we don't give you the proper response that you want the first time, don't give up on us. Just simply come back one more time and just say, "No, I'm just asking because I just really care, and I realize I don't ask you that often enough. So baby, how you doing?" Okay, and I promise you, if you just ease in there like that, she gonna respect you, she gonna appreciate you, and she's gonna open up to you. Okay?
There you
now
have
that's free, all right? The next one go
that
push
was a little token there.
It's gonna push you next time, okay?
On that note, I know a lot of you are also out there wondering how you can get more information about this cognitive conditioning that we've been talking about, or you just have questions. So we'll definitely have a link for you. Are you on Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, it's on the
website?
It's on the first episode, but we'll drop it at the bottom of every description.
I was gonna say it again though, but hey.
Yeah, so and again, we're on all the platforms. I think we just learned about one earlier today that we're going to add to. But if we are not on your preferred platform, if you're listening to us on Spotify, but you don't really F with Spotify like that, then just tell us. Like, most of them are free, and if it's a couple bucks, we could sweep some floors or, do a little song to make sure we can get it. I'm totally kidding. I ain't doing no song, but none of y'all. But, just tell us, because we don't know.
No.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. We don't know all the platforms. Like, I personally listen to all my podcasts on iTunes, or I will watch some of them on YouTube. But really, we're here for you. Like, we put a lot of effort into this. Some people were like, "No, put the videos up because we want to watch on YouTube." So we trying to do all that. So just let us know.
They're working very hard. I don't know if y'all know, they put a lot of work. I've seen it firsthand. They work very, very hard, and I can appreciate them for not just bringing me on, but taking the time to do this for anyone who comes on this and does this.
Yeah, I feel like it's normal struggles, So I appreciate that, because you're really like you are our first guest. Yeah, the last episode, that was our first guest, and you're our first guest. So you have seen the behind the scenes
first and second
stuff that no one has seen. So it's like you can really attest to this.
I can. Keep hope alive.
But we have fun. It's fun. Like ultimately, above all that, it's fun. We love it. And we keep coming up with more stuff to talk about. So we're gonna keep on talking.
Yeah. If I didn't love it, we went
0 to 100 real quick. 0 to 100.
Real quick.
Here you go. On the spot again. So tell us something, and it doesn't have to be anything that recently happened. Just tell us something that just in general, like, takes you from 0 to 100, like that.
Okay. I don't want to sound angry. There's a lot of things that grinds my gears. No, I'm playing. Nah, but real talk. So I don't like when people assume their knowledge just off of just what they heard. Like, I get in a lot of like debates, not because I'm just trying to argue, but I'm the type of person, I look at both sides, the wrong side, the right side, my side, their side, everything. But I hate when people, it gets me riled up when they just want to be like, nope, this is my thoughts and that's it. So being open-minded. I don't like when people are open-minded in a conversation or a debate, because you can debate and be different and get along. But if you're just on this, nope, this is what I think, you're wrong, I have an opinion, don't want to hear it, that gets me 0 to 100 real quick.
I can relate to that, and I think he just invited me to debate with him because that's my favorite thing to do.
You're a lawyer. You get paid to debate legally with
know.
crazy terms that I don't understand.
And normally people suck at it, and I'm like, this is just so unfair.
But I accept all challenges, so let's do
Yes,
it.
let's do it.
We're doing it now, or?
No.
Okay. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Done. The
Time.
bottle
Pick up.
empty. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Yeah, we've been out.
I mean, we ain't got
So
nothing
how do
else
we-
to drink.
Thank you for
We used to
being-
having drinks for 2 people.
I know. We went through a real thing.
And I'm not a
And you're a
lightweight.
bit of a lush. You ain't told me. See what you be doing me.
Yeah, I know. I got you. Make sure.
Okay. So that's our show.
That's it.
Thank you for being our first and second guest.
Yeah, thank you and stuff.
All day, anytime.
Bye, y'all.
Salud.